Hello guys, it's me. I'm going to be doing a book review of Being Julia by Sandi Lynn. This is it's not the third or the fourth book in the series, because the first book is based off the parents' love story. So then you got Connor and Allery, and the first one is in the mum's point of view, which is Forever Black, and then you got the second one, which is in the dad's point of view, which is Forever You. But they do have, in each book, have the old chapter of the other person's point of view. So in like Forever Black, which is the mum's point of view, you will have one chapter that is Connor's point of view, and the same in reverse in his point of view. And then the next one was, which is the third book really, which is Forever Us, is when they had their first child and daughter called Julia. So this is kind of hinting at what this book's going to be about. And then they have the 3.5, so it's not the fourth book, but it's like the next after the third, which is this one, Being Julia. Just to tell you ahead, after Being Julia, which is 3.5, you have the fourth one, which is Colton, which is her brother, who's the youngest. I've read that one as well. I read that one right after I finished this one. I first read the Forever Black series like last year, and I read the first one, and then I read the second one, which is the same book of the first one, but the dad's point of view. And that was about 6 months ago. And then I read the Christmas one. There's like a little Christmas book out of the Black family when they had their kids, and their kids are like young children at like the age of like 6 or 8 or something like that, and it's their first Christmas together, and it's only like an hour long read. It's nothing big at all. It's basically like an hour long, so it's a really short book, but it's just not, it shows you what their family's like now, and then obviously you've got the children who've grown up now, and their romance. So I'm just giving you a brief summary of the series itself. And then after the brothers book, which I have read, there's a fifth one that I haven't read yet, which is called A Black Family. So obviously I'm assuming, because this is the last instalment of the series, this is kind of just me about all of them. So I'm hoping I haven't read it yet, so I don't know, but I don't want to give you any spoilers, but basically this is going to be the last book after we've had the parents' story, the daughter's, Julia's story, and the brother, Colton's story, and you know, they all found their true love like match, and they all have kids and whatever. Not all of them, but you know, I'm just saying as like a, you know, what I mean, they're all like settling down, for example, and the parents are getting older, and some people have died who are family friends, and so I think it's just now that the last book's just going to be about like it was at the beginning sort of thing. So now that they got the whole family together, their other halves, and I think it's just going to be like a celebration of a book with maybe some twists there and some drama of the couples that we love, but it's going to be them as the family as a whole, not a book about one part of each side of the family. It's not going to be about just one person or two people of the story. So it'll be all of them, and you'll probably get a chapter of the dad, chapter of the mum, chapter of the daughter, chapter of her husband, the chapter of the brother, chapter of his wife, and maybe when they find out they're having kids and whatever. So there you go. So I will be reading that, but I won't be I've got it on to read list. So that's just like the base summary of this series. Anyway, I will be, just for you to know, I will be doing a book review of all the books of the series I have read. I do love Sandi Lynn. She's a brilliant writer. She definitely is one of my favourite authors. This is not like top 5, but she's definitely on my favourite list of like she's actually one of the authors that I do remember her name. So there's some people that I love who are writers, I'm like, I love their books, it's by so and so, but I won't remember their name off the top of my list, but I will remember her, like Nicholas Sparks and Sandi Lynn are definitely up there, are people that I do know their name by heart basically, even if they're not my favourites, but she is. Anyway, so Being Julia, I'm not going to give you any background story of the previous books. So you know, if you want to, I'm just going to say, I do suggest myself, because this is what I did, go and read each book as it should be. If you don't know which book is first, I recommend going on Goodreads and typing in Sandi Lynn and looking at the Black Family series, because it actually says the title of the book, and it will tell you in like a hashtag and put 1, 2 and 3 and 4, so you know which book was first. So it will tell you, I've already told you, but it will tell you that way if you forget. So it will tell you which one's number 1, which one's number 2, and which one's number 3, number 4, and you can read the description of what it's basically about. But I'm also going to say, even though I have read all the previous books, reading Julia, I do think you can just read it as a standalone. You may not know the whole background story of all the family, but you don't really need to. You just need to basically know about Julia, and you can learn who are the parents and who is the brother really quickly. But I do like knowing the background story of the parents and how they met and what they went through to get to this point. And there is, I would say, in Julia personally, there is about 3 points in this book where Julia wants to find out more about her mum's past, and if you haven't read the books, they might surprise you, might make you interested. So even if you haven't read the books, it won't be long, it's like 5 minutes out of the whole book, but there is especially one point in the book where Julie is upset and her mum comes in and her mum tells her something that happened to her in her past. So when you find out this information, it did make me feel that if you were a reader who hasn't read these books before, you would feel like, oh my god, I want to know what happened to her mum. When did this happen? And did the dad know? Like, did they meet when he knew that she had this, or was this before they met or whatever? So that will explain it. If you go and read it, you will find out how she knew all that and whatever. And again, just to let you know, in the next book, which is the brother's point of view, it's the same, but his is more to connect with his dad. They did it on purpose. I think more that Julia is she's a daddy's girl, but she connects more with her mum personally about talking about stuff, and the brother connects more about the dad. So I think they've done it on purpose. So it's like boy against boy and girl against girl. So when you've got Julia and the mum, they talk more about their past story, how they're so alike. And even the other parent, like Connor, will say to Julia, you're a lot like your mum, and she may not know why, but if you read the other books, you'll realise why. So each child that is the same sex as of their parent is a lot alike. It's the same for the brother's book. So right from Colton's book, where we've had him in previous books, we all have, but this is in his head and his story. And if you have read the previous books like I have, I knew straight away he was just a dead bringer for his dad. He was doing the same things that his dad did before he met the love of his life, who's their mother. But of course Colton didn't know that he was like following the same footsteps as his dad, until his dad had a big chat to him and basically told him, you're just doing what I did and it's not going to lead you to a good path, because if it wasn't for your mum, I probably would have ended up like this. But it's also a heartwarming feeling knowing that, because knowing how his dad turned out, you can see how he's to have a great love if he does find it, which he will because it's a book, that it's great. Just another thing for you guys to know, unlike the parents' book, before the kids, Julia and Colton, the brothers together, they're both like guessing games, because obviously Julia in this book, she ends up finding her true love, and he's a male, she's not a lesbian, but she does meet more than one man, so you kind of have to guess, is it going to be this guy or is it going to be this guy? And it's the same with the brother. They even play it up even more in the brother's book. I think the brother's book has even more sense of humour to it. It's a lot more, I think sandi Lynn just writes a lot better for the boys sometimes in this series. So there's just something that extra more to it, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't read the girls' point of view of the books, because they're brilliant as well. I just mean, for me personally, I do prefer reading the guys' books, but that's just for me. So yeah, but now I'm basically just going to talk about Julia. I'm sorry about the little ramble, but this is just to give you background story. Anyway, this is going to be spoiler-free book review, and I probably will do a spoiler book review separately, so I'll probably call this one Julia's book review with no spoilers, and then I'll do one called with spoilers, so you can look at this video and know that I'm going to just talk about it, and then you can decide if you want to read it, and then if you have read it, you can go and read that review that has spoilers with it, so we can talk about it as we have both read it. Anyway, so this book has length. It's a really quick book to read. It's about 4 hours, the whole book. So I finished it in one day, and I had already finished a book before that. So I had like a crazy book weekend, and I had read a book before this book, and I read Julia, and I read the brother's point of view, and I read another book as well, but that was before. So I think it was probably like early in the afternoon when I just finished the last book, which was a big one. It was like 9 hours long or something, so it was like a proper big book and regular size. And this one was just like 4 hours, so I finished it before I had to go to bed, fall asleep basically, and it's quite quick read. So if you have got a weekend and you just want to read a book quickly, you can. It's a brilliant book for a holiday, where if you want to read a book on the holiday but you don't want to have to read it every day for holiday, so you want to have a busy weekend, busy holiday but still get some reading in there, and you got a week off, you surely can. Even if I got it in the audiobook version, so I love that because you can cook or do homework, or you can be doing housework and still have it in the background to listen to. But personally, I was just kind of mostly in bed while reading this, and I did have the ebook version, so I did kind of read both of them between. Anyway, so just to let you know, if you haven't guessed already, Being Julia is about their daughter, and she's called Julia. It's different points of her life. I like to put the book into separate stories, so like 2 parts to a story. Like the first part and second part, I would say as teenage and adult age, because the book starts off where she's in private school. It's a private school where they have boys and girls, but they're in separate buildings. So you have the girl building and the boys building. So they are a school joined together, but in separate classes and stuff like that. Julia is 16 years old. You get introduced to the mum and dad, who, if you read the previous books, you already know who they are, but they do give you summaries, so if you haven't, you can straight on get into it. She has a best friend called London who you get introduced to. She has her brother Colton, obviously, and there's a guy that gets introduced to the book very quickly. I won't say his name, so you don't know who the guy she ends up with, but she does, in the whole book, she meets 3 other guys. She meets 3 altogether. But yeah, and how quick it was for me to get into it was really surprising, because right at the beginning when I first started reading it, I wasn't, you kind of need to get that connection with the book where you can't put it down and you keep thinking, I'm not really getting into it. And sometimes that happens to me where I can't get into a book, so I start thinking, I can't bother to read this, I'm going to go off and find something that I can sink my teeth into. But it was really quick for me to get into. It literally took about 10 minutes into the book and I was really hooked, and I was like, I want to know more, I'm interested in the character, even though I didn't connect to her completely personally, but that's a good thing. There was parts of her that I did like. She wasn't a perfect character where she's always perfect and everything. I like that sometimes to me she did seem a bit spoiled, like a spoiled brat, but there was parts of her that made her sound that she didn't take what she had for granted because her parents had a lot of money and she went to private school. She did show to you more than once that she wasn't this bratty girl who took everything for granted. And she does the same in the previous book that she was in. She also proved by that. So I knew beforehand that she wasn't always like this. But you have to remember that she's a 16-year-old teenager, and some teenagers, especially girls, can have those teenagers mood swings where if you're a young adult, you got to remember back the times when you would just change minds really quickly. But I really think personally this is a great book for young adults, or even if you're a person who's 40 and you like young adult books, you would like it. It does kind of take you back. I think that if I was 40 years old and I was reading this, it would make me feel like a young kid again. Like I could imagine myself being her at like 16 years old, even though we might not have done the same things personally or had the same kind of surroundings or environment. And you definitely do feel her emotions. When she's sad, you do feel sad, but there was one point in the book where I think it was meant to be like this though, when she was completely embarrassed and uncomfortable with something that happened in this book, which is kind of a big deal for most teenagers. But when it was happening, and it's really embarrassing, but it's like one of those moments that you read in a book or a TV show when you see the characters or actors on the screen and they're like doing this complete emotion where they're so embarrassed or angry, but you just laugh at it because you're meant to. It's like a turnover logic where even though if that was you personally, you'd be bawling your tears out or being so embarrassed that this has happened to you. But it's so embarrassing that you kind of just laugh at it yourself personally. And that was great that they had that kind of sense of humour that maybe that person wasn't feeling if you were them, but because it's the audience, we laugh at it. So that was really funny. It was laughing where I couldn't I had to laugh out loud. It was really funny, and it kept happening, and then you would stop and then they would say another word that would make you laugh because you would just think about it all over again. And if that happened to me personally, I know that I would feel the same as she did, but because it wasn't me, I had to laugh about it. So that was great. There are some bits in the book there that really I couldn't relate to, but that's not because you wouldn't do those things. It's just because I think of my own strength, or because my own confidence that I am as a person. I have more knowledge at my age than she did, because, you know, it comes to do with like what men are like. Some girls know what men tend to do when they want to get things, and they don't really mean what they say. But some girls, when you're really young, you don't really think about that. You don't think when guys are saying certain words that they may not mean them. You think, why would someone say something that they don't mean? But you don't really realise it. You know, when you're young, you're a bit unaware of why people do things and why they may say something that they don't mean. So I think for her, she didn't really understand why someone would say these sort of things. But for me, I knew straight away, even though she didn't, that if that was me, I wouldn't have done that or done this, or I wouldn't have believed this person because I did that. And I could tell. If you didn't know what I'm talking about, I will explain it in when I do my spoiler review. Anyway, I don't want to tell you what happens, but basically she does meet, you do get a background story of London, and there is drama with her best friend. It does change her life. It gives her an impact on how she looks at the world and stuff. And her brother is always nice to her, straight through from the book, and it made me really excited to see his next book, because he was a lot different from what he was when he was a young kid. I liked seeing him become a man, even though he was an adult, but see him become a man, if you know what I mean, like acting for his own responsibilities. And I loved seeing Julia as she was 16 and seeing things that she went through and learning from her mistakes that are making her into a young adult, and then seeing her with her family and doing teenager things like lying to her parents and learning from her mistakes and realising that if she could, she would have changed that and not done this, or wish that she could have done things differently, which I'm sure all of us do. Even today, even if you're in your 70s, there's things that you wish you didn't do, but you do. I knew as soon as we met the guy that she ends up with, I knew it was going to be him because of the way that they wrote it and the way that they bonded. It was really obvious, and there's also hints that was going to be that way because of her parents were describing when you would know you're with the right guy, because he will make you feel like this and you will want to do this and whatever. So it was really obvious, and she didn't feel like that with the other guys. And when she turns 18, that's when she meets, becomes an adult, and she graduates from school, and London is still in it. Hint, hint. And she has a party, and I just had to say about the parents again, because Connor and Ellery from the books, from previous books, we know what they're like personally, but when you're reading it from the kids' eyes point of view, they found it really disturbing that their parents are always trying to have sex and make out and do things in front of them, and you know, it's like, oh god, we don't want to picture you guys having sex even though you are our parents, it's disgusting. But because I have read the previous books, I expected that from them, because even though they got older and they're parents now with kids, even as I see them getting older and older in the next book, they haven't changed, and I like that. They haven't become that old couple that just don't have any passion anymore. They're exactly the same that they were when they become a couple from the first books, and I like that it's still the same for them. But yeah, it was a really quick book to go through, and I really liked the guy that she ends up with as soon as he was on screen, and it was just brilliant. And you even get one chapter that is from his point of view, and I really liked it. There was one thing I was disappointed from the book, because I don't want to ruin it, but I'm not going to tell you what, but there was a sex scene in the first half of the book, and you got the details basically, not like 50 Shades of Grey level, but you know, you knew what basically was happening. And when she meets the guy that she's going to be with for the rest of her life, like marry and have babies with, we didn't get the like scene where they describe their first time. She tells us that she had sex with him and it was amazing and special, but we never get to see what he says to her or how it happened. Like, did he ask her if she was ready, or did they plan it, or whatever. It wasn't ever, I just think that it was a bit disappointing because we got that sex scene with the guy that she wasn't with, that she ends up with, and we didn't get that with the guy that she wanted. I wanted them to show how it's going to be different from the guy that she didn't even love and she lost her virginity to, compared to the guy that she was going to end up having babies with and getting married to. I just wish that we got to see that they would show you the difference of like making love and just having sex with someone. I wanted them to show you the difference, because there is a difference. Like as they say, there's a difference from fucking and casual sex than there is to making love and loving someone and doing it. There is a difference, but we didn't get to see that, which is a bit annoying. But it was a good book. I think the length was completely perfect. I was a bit worried when I was reading it because it was a short book, and I thought, are they going to give me enough info and enough of what I wanted to hear? Were they going to give me enough of those moments for me to believe that they were going to, this guy was going to be the man she was going to be with? Were there going to be dates? Was there going to be a wedding? Was there going to be kids? You know, when they also had her being 16 and going to college, was there going to be enough drama and enough length that it felt like it was long enough? And it was perfect. I do wish though, because I loved the character, I loved all of them, I did wish it lasted longer, and that's a good sign when you make a reader connect to all the book and you wish that it would last constantly for like infinity, that you would always keep getting more, so much that it just drains out of you. So give this video a thumb up if you like, and please let me know in the comments, just say something about if you want me to make a video book review with spoilers in it, and we can talk about the book and our favourite scenes and all that together. So thank you, this is my book review of Being Julia, and I love you guys, you're my VIPs, and that's it. Bye bye, bye!